Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here that just been sitting on the main desk. I cleaned up that side of it. And there's a saw here. It's in a bunch of parts. I need to put it back together. And there's some hammers that I need to fix and a light. And there's a few, like this compressor. I'm going to test it, see if it works. If it doesn't, then we'll just get rid of it. But yeah, there's lots of little stuff here to fix. Okay, so this chainsaw here, it runs just fine and everything works except for the main seal underneath there. It's hard to see, but you can see right where this seam is. There's a seal in there, and that seal seals in between the two halves of the crankcase and everything of the saw, and the oil tank leaks because that seal is a little bit bad. So the engine still runs, but the seal for the oil is bad, and it leaks it'll just leak. You can see everything's wet in there. It leaks everywhere. It leaks on the flywheel, and the flywheel gets oily, and then it loses spark and doesn't run. Yeah, 2019 on there. So I think it's 4 years old. It just turned 2023, the time I'm recording this. It was New Year's Eve last night, so yeah. But yeah, this saw runs. It's fairly new. The dealer said it wasn't worth fixing because they're not. I have never been a mechanic. I've only been a mechanic for like a few years. Because I learned a lot in the last 3 years. So, and I've also watched lots of videos on YouTube on people rebuilding old saws. Or they weren't that old. They were probably 90s and earlier 2000s. They were the newer chainsaws, but they were kind of a little bit old. And they were all dirty, and then the person would take them all apart and completely rebuild them. And yeah. It's not, those saws that I saw in the video weren't that complicated. Though I probably could rebuild that, but today let's just put it back together and just make it so it's usable. Okay, well, let's see if this thing runs. It seems to run perfect, but just that oil tank is bad, so this saw, it can't, it still would be good for little jobs. And now this light here, I think the cord just kind of pulled out of it, so I think all it needs is a cord. And this thing, there's a little box on there, but it's gone. But we can just put a cord on there and it should be fine. And when it comes to cords, there's a whole box of them because I save old cords. Like, those are all from old appliances. And another good thing is lots of old appliances, don't throw them out. Like if the cords are rubber, you can put these in the freezer and you bend them like that. Just squish them hard. And they're probably not going to break because with the resin cord, like when it gets cold, like minus 20 or 30, it will get cold here. This is a resin cord. And this would probably just get like a crack in it or something. So the rubber cords, I don't think they make these anymore, and these are only found on old appliances. So you can go to like a junkyard or look through the garbage, and see if you can find old appliances with these rubber cords on them, because these rubber cords are indestructible. They're a little harder to work with at the ends of them, but it's worth keeping them, because they're a lot more durable than the resin cords. And the wires on there, aren't they? I think that'll be fine. So I just went to the house to get this toolbox here, because when it was cold, I just did all the electrical stuff inside, and I wanted to make a video on these antique tools. I kind of didn't yet, but this here is my uncle's drill, and he said he bought that brand new in the 80s sometime. And then these two look like they're almost in brand new shape. They look like they've barely ever been used. That chuck is shiny as new. And these two came from my mom's other property. They were left over there when the people sold it. Or they were there when my mom bought that property. The batteries go in the handle here. This tool, I did get it to work, but when I first tried it, right before I brought it over today, it didn't turn on. So this one, I think, has a problem, but this is more of an antique than any useful tool. Now this drill works, and this one works. No, they're both practical tools. They're cordless tools, and that's why they're so useful. So I definitely keep using this one and this one. This one, even if it did work, it's a little bit kind of useless because it's so small. But if it did work, I'd probably use it a little bit too. And then the pack of Makita tools that my uncle bought last year in 2022 is, there's a what do you call that? A mini impact, a drill. Makita is known for their lasting tools. So, and then I bought this tool separate. And I also got this I got this on sale. I got 2 batteries on sale. I don't know if these are the two. Or actually, I think I got one. The farm paid for the other one. And then I got this on, this was $160, and it was free if you bought this tool. So I kind of wanted a bigger one, but I haven't bought one of these before. I bought this one. So glad I did. This has been a very useful tool, and this came with it free. So it's a really good deal. And then this thing came from the other property too, and this is an old Ryobi saw, and my uncle had one the same model, but the thing that holds the blade from moving when you're taking the blade off is broken. So I think some of the Ryobi tools, cordless tools, are not good. Some of them are good. But yeah. And this is fine. This is part of the pack as well. But yeah. Some old cordless tools. And there's another charger. The one that came with my uncle's drill is in the house. So if it gets cold, then I can just use it in there and take these batteries inside. And there's 2 batteries. One's in here. And this drill works. This is the battery for it. But yeah, these tools, I can still see using them. Because I think they're still practical. Like having any cordless drill, even though they're kind of slow, they're not as efficient as the new ones, but they're better than nothing. So they still work. They could still be used. And now let's go back to fixing this. And yes, I did just drive the quad all the way in here. This thing works really well with some Super Swamper tires on it. It's like a Jeep. Looks a bit like a Jeep too. But yeah, it has a lot of traction in the snow. These are accurate tires for the snow, and the clearance is like that's more than a foot. And this seat is for the other quad. My uncle was going to fix the seat for this one, but he hasn't gotten around to it yet. And this light is just falling apart in here. But yeah, I made this homemade bumper, and that bumper is strong. You saw me pushing the splitter with it in the last video, but you can kind of see how thick these plates are. Those are thick plates. I'm not worried about breaking those. And most people would have put this plastic thing done that a bit differently, but these quads don't get used as play toys. These are work machines. And then we had these big tires came with our Yamaha Grizzly, which is not here. I have not even made a single video of it yet. We have a Yamaha Grizzly. I don't know if anybody knew that, but it's at the neighbor's place. It's in pretty bad shape. I don't know if we'll ever get that thing fixed. But it's at the neighbor's. He was going to fix it. It's falling apart here, but yeah. And then now most people maybe would have put a winch in there, but that would have been a lot of work. And I spent a lot of work trying to get this bumper to look nice on there. And I do some thin sheets of steel. And this here, I heard you have to weld every single point when you're using mesh like this to make it strong. And I think I did a pretty good job. These things aren't the strongest. If I were to make it really strong, I would have used rebar probably. But other than that, like the original bumper, I just cut it here. And you can Google pictures of a Honda 4Trax Foreman 420, and you'll see the original, how bad the original bumper is for this thing. And our other quad is a Honda 4Trax. It's a 420 as well, but it's just a 4Trax. It's not a Foreman. Yeah, and you look up pictures of that one too, if you're really curious to find out what the original bumpers look like. And I got a couple bigger pieces of black heat shrink on there, and one on the cord. And we use a heat gun to heat those up to shrink them. And this here is an example of a resin cord. This was like minus 30, and I did that. That would probably break it. It would just fall apart. You just put that over there. You kind of feel where the bump is. That's about in the middle. Now I know that's going to be a strong connection. Yeah, it works. See, look at that light. That's a good light. I like these. These are really bright and yeah. It's kind of a yellow light. And these are heaters too. That's warm. Like I can feel the heat from that. And another tool I fixed was this 50-year-old skill saw, or what do we call that? And yeah, this thing works really well. When it's on, the motor just kind of comes to a stop. But after using it a while, I think it's supposed to do that. And I think I made a video on this in one of my other earlier videos. It was I think it was a spreading gravel video or something like that. But yeah, this saw still works. And I would use this on a job. It seems like it's reliable enough. You see how it just kind of comes to a stop like that? I think that's supposed to do that, though. I tested it out. It seems to work just fine. I keep all the power tools here in the messy corner. And there's a new tool versus an old tool. They're both the same brand and pretty much the same model. This one still works, but it quit once, and my uncle did fix it once, but and also it makes a bit of a funny grinding noise. I think the hammer in there is getting worn out on this one, so that's what the new one's for. And that's another old drill that still works. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that this drill, the chuck is bent on it, but I don't think it is. And that one, I'm kind of worried I screwed up the chuck on that a little bit, but this is still a useful drill. And here's another antique, this old, now it needs a redo on the cord there. It works. And it's a leaf bore, and I've used this before. That's a useful thing. And then there's another, yeah, you can see the problem. That third part of the thing just broke off in there. This drill works, it just needs a chuck. But my uncle has like 3 or 4 other ones, so I just signed my name with one of his to add to my tool collection. And yeah, we store lots of parts up there. When I was cleaning out the shop, there was lots of old car parts and parts off of the old dump truck. But this area, I kind of started to clean it, but never finished. And then I cleaned this, and I brought over, like, lots and lots of hardware, and I organized all the hardware on this shelf. Some of it's from the other property, some of it was from here, and then I organized. And this whole thing here came from the other property. A lot of the hardware came from there. And I need to find some old videos or pictures. There was one where I was working on the 108 on the lights, and this is way before I even started cleaning the shop. And yeah, you wouldn't even believe how messy this shop was. It's like it was a picture Photoshop or something. And I cleaned this shop, and it really wound back the years of this shop. And like, I cleaned it, and it was like stuff I never seen before. And it's hard to explain, but it's a huge difference. Because I grew up as a kid seeing this shop messy, and then, it was like kind of old, and then I just moved everything and cleaned this up, and now it's like reversing the years of this shop and back to when it was almost brand new. And this is a bunch of metric hardware. What are these called again? The valve rods or whatever. And this is all the hardware I got out of that old car engine. I don't have videos of that, but I took apart this old, what was it called again? A Buick, I think, or something like that. And it was a V6, and I just took took it all apart, mainly for scrap metal. I separated the aluminum from the steel, and I kept a bunch of parts, or, I kept everything that wasn't scrap metal on it, and some of it, like some of the parts out of the transmission, I kept for machining if I ever bought a lathe. I keep forgetting to talk about this. I could have made this more easily on a lathe. Like, you see, I had to weld a nut on there, and I tried to weld it as smooth as possible, and then kind of sanded it and ground it down. But if I had just had, I could machine a part to weld on there, and then it would have been straight. I could have machined maybe a bolt or something on there. So, I mean, I did that without the lathe. And this tool is for holding. You can put like a punch in there, and then this thing holds the punch, and then you can hammer on that. And you can put different size punches in there. So you can adjust it. With the hold out with one camera, but you turn the threads like that, and then you can adjust it to, it might even fit those little punches, or that one. And I've used this. I don't use it that much, but that way you don't have to be holding this and then worrying about your hand. This thing does it for you. And then you can hammer as hard as you want on that. So, and this here is another tool they don't sell in the stores. This could be a production line. I could go to like the government and say, this is my invention. I want to sell these and produce them. So, and I probably should not have made a video on that because now someone might steal my idea. But I don't care if you make one of these. Go ahead. That's a useful tool. And I'm too busy to make mass production out of these. But that's a handy tool. When you're on a farm and you don't want to spend any money, you just make stuff. Another antique is this drill here, the Skill brand. This thing works fine. It just doesn't have a double direction. And it only has one speed. But this thing is powerful. It has a lot of torque. That's a good drill. And another couple of antiques. This Makita grinder, this is used like a daily tool. The reason the cord is all weird is because there's a little bit of a loose connection, so I just tape the cord like that. Seems to work. I'll need to take that apart and fix it, but... And then this here, this is like a 30-year-old grinder. And I had to kind of DIY a really crappy handle because this grinder isn't even designed to have a handle on it. There's nowhere to put a handle. So I made that. Now, this thing is not the best, but I'm careful with that. I know how to use it. And yeah, I adapted it. Both of these they actually take the small type of disc, but I adapted them so that now all the grinders we have, except for the big old one, they all take the same size of disc. It's like a medium size. So, yeah. Okay, this light here I think that's fixed. It works. So, now I think that's fine. I just got to be careful with it. But yeah, I should put this. Kind of a mess in there, but maybe I should just stop talking about antiques because there's literally antiques everywhere. That's an antique. It's an old thing. It's the next day here, and I filled this up. Last night I was looking around the property for firewood, and I forgot to put the cap on. That probably has something to do with me being a little bit sick right now. So my brain isn't quite up at the top, but I painted it red. And I think if I just drive around, I may find that, but let's see if we can find a replacement. I have that cap. It's inside. But let's find a fuel cap. All right, so this is the one. This is for the oil. That one goes on there. And it actually, it's nice the factory made them the same size. So the oil cap will go on the fuel. But let's try a few others. This one is actually, funny story on this. I lost this. And then this cap here is a Kawasaki motorcycle cap for my motorcycle. And I lost it. And then I tried the one from a quad and put it on the motorcycle. And it seemed to work just fine. And so we ended up, I liked the Honda design better. So I actually bought the farm bought another Honda cap for the motorcycle. And that was nice. So the Kawasaki and Honda parts, I think, are sometimes the same. Let's see if it'll fit a Arctic Cat. Almost. And this one is off of a Arctic Cat Panther. That's off of those two junk snowmobiles. It's got a hole, but we can plug that. And this thing is like 40 years old. Antique cap. And it fits. I mean, then again, it is an Arctic Cat, but that's like a 40-year-old cap right there. think if I put that in there and then put some hot glue around it, it should fix that. And this is actually, that rusty stuff, that's actually a metal. So there is metal on that cap. But, yeah. I think that'll hot glue around that and that should fix that. The bigger guns are better for shops because they can put out more glue. And the little ones are better for crafts. Like the low temperatures, little ones are better for craft. And the high temperature ones, the small ones, are nicer. But when you're getting a big gun like this for a shop, it should always be a high temperature. I didn't do a very good job of filming that. It's like way in the corner. I don't know why. I guess I was kind of focusing on the job and less about the camera because I didn't want the hot glue to go hard or to plug the hole that I was making. Okay, so my parents are dealing with a valve on the car there, but yeah. Normally, you can just get your finger wet, like dip it in water, and you have to just be careful you don't burn yourself. But what I can do is get your finger wet, and you just dab around, and you can smooth out the glue. But I think that did a pretty good job of fixing that. Now it kind of looks better. So yeah, and now there's a breather valve, a homemade breather valve there. So that white thing should be hollow. And I can see light through it, so the camera can't, but I can see light through it. So I think this is fixed now. And the oil valve is kind of under something. So this cap should work fine for an oil valve for ever, I think. You know, oil's too thick to get through there, but so if the snowmobile tips over, I don't think it'll really get through there, and it's just enough for air to get through. So I think that maybe it'll fix it forever. And to make it look nicer, you can always get a pen and just color that darker. I have a black pen here, so let's just use this blue one. The snowmobile is blue anyway. You know, that's pretty good. And that's a 40-year-old cap right there. I mean, the bottom part is kind of ugly, but this should work for a long time. You know, until you could price out a new cap, but this is a free way to do it. So, yeah, and I can see light. I can see light through that little white thing. So I think this is fixed.
Was that a trailer? Now I'm calling it a trailer.
Yeah. That fits on there really good. Look at that. But it's new. I think that's fixed on in the original oil cap. Original oil cap can just be used as a fuel cap. I'm probably going to find that original fuel cap. Because I think I put it there so it would have slid off and then it would have fallen off the snowmobile. I don't think I would have driven over it. So I could check the trail. I'll probably find that cap. I just actually went on the trail that I went on when I lost the cap, and I found the fuel cap. And I'm glad I went looking for that. But this cap here, this is still, even if I didn't find that oil cap fits those threads, this would have lasted forever. This would have been just as good as the factory cap. And this one, now I have a spare cap for it. And I'm glad I made that. And that little white thing is actually a wire from the light job. So that was yesterday. So that was actually garbage, and you can kind of see light through it. So that wire I'm glad I put that in there and did that. It was everything worked out perfectly, and now this cap is as good as a factory cap. And the reason it has a metal, because it actually had a gauge on it from those Panthers, but yeah, now there's a spare cap for it. Okay, so here's our little hammer heads and stuff. And see these here, these three just need the metal wedge in them, the axe and that hammer. And then we have to put handles on all of these heads here. So here's some wood scraps that my cousin got from his workplace. They were throwing that out. And this is fir. It's nice hardwood. I think this would be good for making handles for some of these small heads, because they need stronger handles. So we don't have a huge amount of tools for that, but like this here is a hammer I fixed. Now it's not fixed to look nice, it's fixed to work. I think the head it's on there good enough to work. That's the case with a lot of tools. And this here is a railway spike. That's an antique. Because my grandpa worked on the railway for years before him and my uncle bought the farm. I'm going to use this tool here I made. So how this works is you put this in there. And a lot of chisels have flat sides. So I designed this one for bigger punches and stuff. But just put that in there. This one here is a little bit small for it, but once you get it in there and then tighten it. And also you just kind of push down on it to tighten it some more. And that should be all you need. See if we can use this 80s drill. And I like how they have chucks on them. This is a cordless drill. I think the battery's kind of low in this, but let's see if it works. I mean, these things are they're not that powerful, and they're not really very strong. So that's respectable. I mean, they are very old. It's pretty modern technology for 80s, I guess. They're working, but they're just not very fast. It seems to work. It works good, but it's just not very efficient, so let's get a different drill. I don't know how it broke. This might take a while. So here's the finished hammer. I think I did a really good job on that handle. I'm actually very surprised on how good a job I did on that handle. It's almost perfectly straight, just a little bit bent. And it takes a lot longer to do it. It takes a lot longer to make them nice like that, but you know, that head doesn't move it around at all. So now that's a really good, nice hammer. This would be a good forging hammer. So yeah, let's move on to the other one. Move on to some of those. And this one here, this is actually just a piece of round stock. And it looks like someone used a torch and cut through it here. And it's not tool steel or high carbon steel because the ends are mushrooming. You see how they're kind of folding over? Okay, well now there's a second hammer done. So I got a wooden wedge in the middle and then that thing on the side. A metal one sideways. And I think that'll help it to stay strong. And another thing you can do is, once that's done, you can soak it in water, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think I need to. I mean, that's really solid. That head, it was fitting on there pretty well. Almost perfect. So I think that hammer should last a long time. I'm trying to get this little wedge out of here. This is actually a factory-made one. This looks like the strongest one I've done yet. This one will probably last forever. or for a very long time. Now I put a couple wooden wedges in there, and I made a metal wedge, and that looks really good. This hammer doesn't look nice. This is the type of hammer that you'd put on a tractor for like hammering pins out. You know, it's like a, you know, it's better than nothing, but it's, you know, it's a bit of a weird one. But at least it's gonna get put to use and not sitting in that box. The next day here, and these are all the hammers that I put handles on or switched them around and fixed them. And this here is, I am very proud of this one. This one, my uncle really likes it too. I did a really good job on that handle. This is like a nice little mini hammer. Yeah. I think this one should last a while. And this one here it's pretty ugly, and it's not very well balanced, but this is more of a hard work utility hammer that is meant to get, you know, banged up. It's like an off-roading Jeep that you don't care about, and these are like nice vehicles that you don't want to go in the bush with. Yeah, and this one's another, you know, I do really like I did a good job on this, but it, you know, I have a bit of a short handle, so maybe it's not the best for forging, but it's short, so it's better. These two are kind of more for utility. And then this one here, you know, the handle's not too bad. I could use that one for forging. But this is my favorite one. This is a really good one. I think this one would be the ultimate. It's nice and heavy. This one would be the ultimate forging hammer, I think. And this one had a fiberglass handle on it, but it was pretty old. But I was able to fix it. I was able to bang out the pieces of epoxy in there. Wasn't too hard, and I got a nice handle on there. And that's a nice hammer. I like this one a lot. And the stuff that needs to be fixed is this. Maybe I'll fix it, but this is kind of more of an ornament. No, it is a nice axe. I think my uncle found that years ago. He has like a whole story about that or something, but yeah. And this one I tried to fix. I tried to make a handle in there. That's this one a few times, but this one is a new head. It had a fiberglass handle on it, and it has a weird bevel in there. And I tried and tried. I couldn't get the head on the handle straight. So I don't know about this one, but and then this stuff, you know, that's kind of a maybe, but the hammers is more important. The axes, we don't really need. I don't have spare handles, and to make that shape, that's a lot of work. So. And we just don't really use axes. And this one just needs a bit of a touch-up. yeah. I think if I just hammer the head on there a bit, and then just get a metal wedge, this one should be fine. And then this one I fixed a few of them like this a while back. The same way I'm doing it now. Yeah, and then this one, nothing unusual about it. This one that's kind of more of a sculpture-sized hammer. That's so tiny, I don't know what you would use it for. But yeah, I'm going to put a handle on that one. That looks pretty good. This is another ball peen hammer, but I fixed it before. Didn't do the best job of it, but it's holding okay. It's strong. I might hold it for a while anyway. No, that's not the right handle for that, but it should work. That's a nice Viking axe. And then here's all the hammers I fixed. There's quite a few. This one was the only one that had a handle, or One of the others had a handle, but yeah. And then this one turned out nice. Nice round little handle. These two I made the handles from scratch. And that was nice. These are nice little hammers now. Uncle always used to keep a couple of small ball peen hammers here. And then the rest of them you just put in a bucket over there. Yeah, I think these would be really good forging hammers. This one I really struggled to get a wedge in there. And then I just got a smaller one, and it was still hard to get in there. So I think that'll last a very long time. That should never come loose again. And this one kind of has a rather big head for a short handle, but that's a good thing. I mean, this one's even heavier. So if your arm can lift it, it's also a good forging hammer. This one is kind of the right weight for me. But yeah. These three would make good forging hammers. These three are more utility hammers, I guess. And then those ones over there are kind of like sculptures, but they're usable. Okay, so this thing, you see the wire just needs to be soldered to the main part of that clamp there. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna do any better. Another way to do that is you just pinch it all together, squish that jaw. I mean, the solder helped, but still not a very good job of that. Just let that cool off. Well, that should be fixed. Okay, well this thing is fixed now. That's almost as good as it was. I could make it prettier, but I think that's fine. Okay, so that compressor I was working with there, I really couldn't get that to work. So it's in the garbage bin, but no, if I decide to change my mind and keep it for something, my uncle might want it, but I think that thing is just a cheapie. I couldn't get it to turn on. It had no power, and then a fuse blew in it the minute I tried to turn it on. So, and then the battery charger, I did fix that another day. I didn't record it, but I did fix it with heat shrink, and I put the clamp back on. So I didn't fix it in this video, but I did fix it. It's actually currently being used. I was charging a battery with it today, and this is a different day that this video is being recorded, and it seems to work. This light needs a bulb. You can see how boiled up that one is. This light is unplugged, obviously. seems to work. I like these lights. They're like the sun. They're so strong. I wasn't planning on filming this, but I was kind of looking for something, and then I decided to organize this side of the shop a bit more. So I'm gonna clean it up and get all the, all the good stuff in one place, and all the hardware and any of the garbage I'll get rid of. Yeah. This light, the glass just shattered on it. See, it's all shattered. I don't know why that just happened, but I just heard a pop and the glass shattered. Still holding there, but I got a magnet here. I put it in here, the magnet in here, so you don't get a whole bunch of like dust and stuff stuck to it. My grandparents take pills, so that's what these bottles are from. Okay, well this side of the shop is now a lot cleaner and everything's organized, and there was a lot of garbage here. So everything pretty much the same. I organized it. I found a lot more fuel caps. It's good to have that many spares and some gauges and whatever was down here. It was either garbage or I sorted it and put it up here. I put a couple things over there. This is garbage, and yeah, it's nice and clean now. Eventually I want to do under here and everything else in here. And people are probably going to be saying, well, why did you destroy this thing? This was nice. Well, this thing, when I was about to move it, it just fell apart. I'm not sure if the time-lapse got that or not. It just, the back side of it fell apart and it was splitting. So it was pretty old. No, it was wasn't in any good enough shape. This has a lot of screws in it. And I think I'll save that piece. These pieces, this here is plywood. It looks like nice wood, but I think it's just plywood. It's not that good a quality. So it's not real. Well, it's wood, but it's plywood. It's not solid. So I don't know. I may keep that piece. That might be good for something, but everything else, I think it's better just to break it up for kindling. And all this paper, there's just way too much paper around. I'll make a fire and burn that somewhere, because there's so much. We have just too much paper around. And yeah, and then that scrap, or not scrap, it's just some old machine parts here. I'll put them in the steel shed tomorrow. And then I think we can work on these two machines if I do that, or I might do something else. I'm gonna take some screws out of there because I'm noticing there's quite a few. Look at how many screws I got. I got a lot of screws out of that. I'm going to use those again for another project. I decided I was going to save some of these because they're nice and strong. So I have a box of them. This here is actually an antique. It's really rusty. And I think this was made for a forge. Probably. Okay, so I sweeped out a bunch of stuff here, and eventually I will get around to fixing a bunch of shovels and spades and stuff like that. And then I kind of cleaned it up a bit here. Eventually I want to organize everything under there. Just like, under there all those hoses need to be. And I did organize this before, but that was like the first thing I did in the shop. And then I just moved everything else, and then now this is getting piled up with stuff. And then on this blade here, I replaced what are they called? Those fingers or ears for the two arms of the 3-point hitch. One of them broke, but I just replaced both of them so they're the same. And I hope they're not too short. But yeah, that's fixed. It's like a manual bulldozer. But yeah, I could make extensions for it. I may do that eventually. And the grapple bucket, we keep using it to get more wood, so. And none of those, the sides of it are not, they never bend. So I kind of think they're probably not going to need fixing. That kind of wraps this video up, and I encourage my viewers to go find the first video on my channel and watch up to now, and then you'll learn a lot about the farm. There's lots of stuff that, it kind of fills in the gaps, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't usually ask for this, but if you could like and subscribe, that'd be nice, because eventually I want to grow my channel so I can make money off of it.